We're on the home stretch now. My name is Oliver Gersheimer. Welcome to my HMI Design Masterclass. Now we're entering the final phase of the HMI design process, where we need to orchestrate three main elements. Take a look. We start after the testing, where we documented insights with our results pyramid. If these insights show a significant difference between our design and the intended user-centric HMI, we need to go to a second review loop, an iteration that works not with questions, but with A/B testing, where we present designs to our users and ask which of the alternatives is better. When we've completed this step, we enter the polishing and styling process. We have three areas we can now work on. First, small graphical elements. Second, dialogue and feedback elements. And third, remember that visual elements are complemented by text. Checking the wording and taxonomy to make sure they support the graphical concept. And then the results are intended to go into a UI library. So we try to define the elements in such a way that they are reusable, putting them on shelves, so to speak, which is why I sketched them here, giving us the option of reusing the specifications in future designs. "20 years ago, I first came in contact with HMI designs and interfaces for machines. Now, as we all know, we have many more colors to choose from, but this doesn't mean HMI design has to become a coloring book or a paint catalog. We have to learn to use color distinctively. Let me show you what I mean. You can see this interface, a compilation from our earlier units where we designed elements. And now we want to choose the colors. We have a bright blue as a background and a bright yellow. And we get the feeling that this is too much. So we tone down the contrast, choose a simpler background, and use color as a canvas. So the next step is to reduce the range of colors, using a matched palette, while keeping the alignment and also toning down the text color. But we still have the impression of a flat, one-dimensional design. Now, just like in a painting, we want to create depth in the user interface. And for this purpose, we use different shades of colors that we stack. Here you can see the result. With different shades of white and gray, the functional group is brought to the front, getting an overlay appearance. Input fields are clearly separated from the background with a gray border. And, what is important, active buttons and interactive buttons get their own color palette. Independent of refining the wall paint in our HMI house and setting off areas and functional units with color, we have a special color palette reserved for specific functions. I am talking about signal colors, used for interaction and navigation. This is not something you've never heard of before. Just a reminder that the stoplight color code is an internationally familiar and standardized color code. And in some industries, there are standards for using these colors and interfaces. So we have no option but to use exactly these colors for feedback and interaction. In its essence, an HMI is a functional and pragmatic interface. This is what we have shown and discussed. Still, the interface is the face of the machine, and the machine should have a friendly and likable face. And color, elements of the color and using color, is important in this respect. Rule number 1, no gimmicks. Just look at this interface, where out of the blue we have a glossy effect, a color gradient for a 3D look, and very drastic colors. Very noticeable, maybe more noticeable for the user than might be necessary. Let's try to improve this. Here, we have a gradient of more similar colors, which leads to a more subtle 3D effect that has a more positive ring to it when highlighting the relevance of this button. Even more subtle and matched to the interface is this version, a simple and almost serene color gradient of just a few percent. Typography is also a very important factor in general appearance, using fonts and font weights. And this is also a good example where we have typography with matched colors. We are using bold fonts for subheads, and we use a different color shade for the input fields, in this case gray. So the typography helps differentiate between the three levels, and we can remember this well. In our HMI design process, we are now working on the interior design. We look at the walls, the colors, and now we want to add accents. Welcome to the world of icons. There are many excellent icon sets that are complete, aligned, uniform sets that we want to use for our HMI. Let's take a look at some examples. First, we have classical black and white sets and colored icon sets. Basic rule: start with black and white, with simple and precise representations. Next, we have the amount of detail. A good icon should have no more than 2 aspects, ideally only 1, making it easier to remember. When you try to cram 5 aspects into one icon, that's way too much. Next, we have 3D and 2D icons, and there are more sets. But let's move on to this very harmonious set with icons that have singular meanings. Each icon represents one action or meaning. Just as with traffic signs, there are certain global standards for icons and meanings. Take the search icon, the exit icon, or the edit icon. Basic rule number 2: follow the beaten path. Use icons we all know. Use the standard. Don't start designing your own icon sets. Let's look at this in the context of the UI. We have introduced an icon sidebar, and we notice the visual accent bringing the content with the typography to the front. But we also notice the mixing of different icon styles: 3D, color, black and white, different levels of contrast. That irritates the user and can even create distrust towards certain icons and the user interface. Look at an improved version. We notice a consistent use of black and white or inverted icons that fit well into the general appearance of the interface. As you're finishing your design, you should also have an eye on the rollout. Good design is a unique selling point, so talk about it. You've created added value that should be communicated to your customers through all the different channels. You enable time savings. You enable higher productivity. The design is well-balanced and appealing. You've given your machine a friendly face. Now, you may remember from a previous unit that the weakest link is the interface. The next weakest link would be marketing materials and documentation that are sloppily or lazily compiled, because that is the first impression your customers will get of your new HMI design, and there's no second chance for that. So make sure you have good materials to convey all the benefits. So, the design job is done. The new product, the next generation, is out on the market. What's next? Well, after a match, there's always the next match. So take the time to sort and save all the insights, the sketches, and the know-how you've gained during the project so you can retrieve it later anytime you want. You've built a solid knowledge base about HMI design with know-how that is grouped into 4 clusters. You have user insights. You have context insights. You have your idea space. And you've transferred your ideas into a digital spreadsheet that you can reuse anytime. And last but not least, you have an effective set of modules and building blocks for HMI and UI design that you can build upon in the future. You can find the 6 tips in the download PDF for this unit. Don't forget, HMI design is a job that's never finished. Use your skills and continue to improve.
So, das war's.
That was that. After the game is before the game. The HMI Design Masterclass was just the start. You are now familiar with the basics. Now go implement. In this endeavor, we want to give you the best support we can. That's why we have released the HMI Template Suite, which contains the library used in the videos. And right now, we are creating a matching HMI design workbook with all the basic knowledge from the HMI Design Masterclass, plus everything you need for putting it into practice. Have fun! See you soon, and all the best! Oliver Guest Timer.